Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to stream number 24, continuing my learning in FastAPI. Last night, we began studying about security and we understood the different types of authentication schemes which are available in FastAPI, including using API keys, using OAuth tools, auth tools, using stuff that we saw yesterday. And yesterday, we're looking at OAuth2, okay, as one of the authentication schemes that you can see right here, okay. And yeah, we got done with this. So, and we saw that you can add security using a dependency. So the OAuth2 scheme was a dependency, okay. Okay, so let me continue. Yeah, good morning, Linus. Thank you for joining today's stream. Let's continue. So today we're looking at how to get a current user, and then after that, I'll go to the next topic. So they're saying in the previous chapter, the security system, which is based on the dependency injection system, was giving the path operation function a token as a str, as a string. So you need a number of concepts you need to understand. You need to know what dependency injection is, okay. You can watch the previous streams, previous 3 auto streams to understand that. But ideally, a dependency can be a service, it can be a tool, okay, a callable that your path operation function, okay, requires, okay, to function properly. That's what a dependency is. Then injection simply means providing that requirement to your function. As simple as that. So that's what dependency injection is in short. So of course, and we saw that it was giving the path operation function a token as a string, okay? So this token was being given to this path operation function called read items, okay, as a string, okay? And that came from this, okay? But of course, like you know, what we studied yesterday, this was actually incomplete, okay? It was incomplete. So we're going to continue studying and to see where they take us. So they're saying this code works with Python 3.9 and above, okay? So here we have annotated imported from typing, we have depends and FastAPI imported from FastAPI, we have the OAuth2 password bearer imported from FastAPI.security, an instance of FastAPI, and then we have an instance of the auth2 scheme, which is as a result of calling this class called the auth2 password bearer. And the token URL is token, okay? And we saw that actually this won't help you immediately, but at least we understood the concepts that they wanted to pass with this, okay? But the main point of interest right now is this line of code they have highlighted, which is the token, which is being provided as a string to the path operation function read items. So I'll go on to probably open this, okay? But again, this is simply for those working with other versions of Python like 3.8 and above. And the difference is that they're using typing extensions, okay, and importing annotated, okay. So up here it is imported from typing directly. So take note of those small differences. But yeah, mine fits this bill. So yeah, I'll just simply follow this. So they're saying, but it is still not that useful. Let's make it give us the current user. So like you said yesterday, there was nothing much you could do with this code, okay? Nevertheless, it was still a time to learn, okay? So I will get back here. Excuse me. Well, let's continue. It's saying create a user model. So you're saying first, let's create a Pydantic user model. And of course, right now we know what a Pydantic user model is all about. And you're saying the same way we use Pydantic to declare bodies, we can use it anywhere else, okay? And we looked at how to use Pydantic to declare body parameters, okay? So this is the line of code of interest. They're saying import base model from Pydantic, okay? Then, of course, an instance of FastAPI, we have the OAuth2 scheme. Then we have the base model. And of course, we already know what this is all about, okay? And username is required, okay? But we can see that email, full name, and disabled are optional. So we have a function called fake decode token that takes a token, okay, and returns a user, okay. So say username equals to token plus fake decoded email equals to John, full name equals to that, okay. Simply creating an instance of this base model and passing the data to it. Then they have another function saying get current user. This function takes the token, okay, which is a string, but it depends on the OAuth2 scheme, okay. So the OAuth2 scheme is what is responsible for providing this, or what is responsible for giving us the token, okay. So this OAuth2 scheme, which is defined up here, okay, which is our authentication mechanism, is what gives us the token, okay. And then right here, we now use this function fake decode token, okay, which accepts a token, and this token is got from this variable here. But again, that one is got from our dependency, which is the OAuth2 scheme, which is right up here, okay. So when we get the token from the OAuth2 scheme, we now decode it, okay, and by decoding it, we return the user. And actually, this is the normal process how you would decode a token, okay, how you would get a current user. First of all, you would get the token, okay, from the request. After getting that token, you made, of course, first of all, validate that token to prove that it has not expired, it's valid, okay. Then using that token, you decode it, okay, against the values you have in your databases to return a user instance, okay, in this case. And finally, they say return current user. So first steps is you perform authentication using the authentication scheme. After that, you have a dependency, in this case, which is the authentication scheme, which gives you a token. And that token, you first of all decode it. And the result of decoding that token is getting the current user. Doing code like a sheet. Yes, I remember you. How are you doing? You've missed a number of streams. I think I last saw you. Was it last weekend or last week? You've missed like I don't know. Are they 6? Okay. It says link code like says and token have the same secret key while decoding. Yes, they have the same, use the same secret key while decoding. And of course, we haven't looked at that, but I'm guessing you guys are already backend developers and you have the idea, okay, about how this works. But yeah, right now I'm learning how to do it with uh, FastAPI. And of course, right now with OAuth2, they've not mentioned to us about secret keys or anything, but I guess soon, if it is required or necessary, they will let us know. Okay. So yeah, let's continue. So they say, of course, now we have the path operation function. Okay. So you see that the path operation function read users, okay, is responsible for getting the current user. Okay. And we see that it has been annotated, okay, with use as the type, which is the base model, okay. And then we have a dependency. The dependency is get current user, okay. So this dependency here is responsible for giving the path operation function the current user, and they simply return that current user. But if you look at this, okay, get current user is the dependency they're passing here, okay. So this is what we said the other, maybe a few days ago, where you have a dependency of a dependency. And you can have many dependency of a dependency of a dependency of a dependency. When we were studying about sub-dependencies, we looked at this. So you see that current user, okay, read users has a dependency get current user, which is this, okay, and current user also has a dependency, which is OAuth2 scheme, okay, this one. Isn't that interesting that all things are now making sense and coming together? Doing code says he was hospitalized. So sorry about that. I wish you a quick recovery. Yeah, being sick sucks. Every time I feel sick, about maybe 2 weeks ago, I was feeling unwell and I had a running stomach just an hour before that Saturday night stream. It was crazy. Okay, how I took medicine and how when you're trying to get through that, you appreciate actually just even 1 minute of feeling good. Okay, it feels like gold. Yeah, and health is, I think, the biggest luxury we humans have. I don't think anything better than that. Being healthy and being alive is the best. I'm glad that you're back, and if you're not yet fully strong, you'll get stronger and better. Okay, so yeah, again, like I always tell you, concepts are always built upon concepts. Okay, so we have seen the concept of the binary based model. We have seen the concept of the functions and path operation functions. Okay, we are we are seeing the concepts of dependencies. Okay, dependency, and then also the concept of dependent sub-dependencies. Okay, like right now we're seeing that auth is a sub-dependency, and then we are seeing the concept of what's this? I'm confusing the name, authentication. Okay, open API authentication schemes, and one of them is OAuth2 scheme. Okay, so let's continue. And of course, for people working with other versions and variants, look into this. But what changes simply is the annotation, but the concept is the same. Okay, like here, what changes is simply using union here. Okay, here they use union, while up here they use this pipe. Okay, this symbol here to represent union. Okay, so depending on your version, you adjust. The same thing for Python 3.8. They use union, and annotated is imported from typing extensions. Here, annotated is imported from typing directly. So take note of those uh, differences. Okay, then of course you can look at these Python 3.10 plus and Python 3.8 plus without using annotated, but they say prefer to use annotated version if possible, and I want to stick to using annotated. Okay, I want to get used to practicing the right thing or the recommended thing. Once you practice the thing which is not recommended, with time you get used to it. Okay, so Dincode says I have SSL minor blood cancer. Sorry about that. Yeah, but you'll get better. Okay, usually see stories of people beating it. Okay, and yeah, I pray you get okay. I know you'll get okay. Yeah, just have it in your mind. If you read, there's a book I read some time back, in a book called what's it called? Uh, Think and Grow Rich. Okay, that book, the first chapters. I think either the first or second chapter. It must be one of the first or second chapter. As well as the book was talking about money and whatever. There's a story in that book where the author's child who was born without hearing was able to hear. Okay, and if you look at, if you just go and read the first chapter of that book, you'll see how that happened. Okay, yeah, many of the things actually start from the mind. Okay, and yeah, I know you'll be okay. You're a strong person. The fact that you're even here. So let's go ahead, guys. They say create a get current user dependency. Okay, and of course we've already seen it here. Okay, and yeah, but of course you know how we now know how their documentation works. Okay, when they say create a user model, usually they're trying to they're simply saying do this. Okay, so you see that they have, in every part of the documentation, they have particular parts in the code where they want us to be interested in. Okay, so like here, and that part which they want you to be interested in, they highlight it. So like here, the first goal was us understanding this. Okay, that from Pandantic import base model. But of course, I've explained all this code. Okay, and they are going to start now explaining this code step by step. Okay, but let's continue. Okay, let's continue. So they're saying, let's create a dependency, get current user. And they're saying, remember that dependencies can have sub-dependencies. Okay. They're saying get current user will have a dependency with the same auth2 scheme we created before. And we have seen it. Okay. This is the dependency talking about, get current user. And it has a dependency OAuth2, or in this case, a sub dependency. Okay. So let's continue reading. They're saying the same as we are doing before in the path operation directly, our new dependency, get current user, will receive a token as a string from the sub dependency OAuth2. Okay. So get current user, which is a dependency, will get a token, okay, as a string. This is a string, remember, str from OAuth2. Okay. So this OAuth2 scheme will give us a string, and that string is a token which can be used for authentication. Okay. Doing code says that book is by Napoleon Hill. Yeah, by the way, most likely, I'm not sure I remember the author. If I can maybe Google it, Think and Grow Rich. Yes, you're right. It's by Napoleon Hill. Yeah, I like the first two chapters of that book, and I would recommend you guys to read it. Of course, not because you need to get rich or something, but yeah, the ideas are in the book are really makes sense. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, so they have explained to us this, which I already went through, and of course this other part just simply has other versions and variants, okay, that you can look at. But again, what changes is simply annotation, like in this case using union, okay, instead of the pipe. So they're saying get the user, okay, so saying get current user will use a fake utility function we created that takes a token as a string and returns our user model. Okay, we'll take a utility function we created, and that utility function is called fake decode token. Okay, in other words, you're simply teaching us the concept of decoding a token. Okay, and yeah, and it turns to us a pedantic user model. This fake turns a pedantic user model. So you see, they're telling us in this part now, the point of interest is explaining this, which they've highlighted, and also this. But of course, we know about this. So you're saying get current user uses a utility function, which is fake decode token, which takes in the token. Okay, but again, remember this token comes from OAuth2 scheme, and then returns to us a user, and we can see that logic here. So let's continue. They say inject the current user. So they're saying now, so now we can use the same depends with our get current user in the same path operation. Okay. So then I say if the book is good, I've read it. Oh, that's nice. It's good that you guys have read these books. There are a number of books actually I've read, and my plan now is to read maybe like 4 more, then repeat. Okay. I want to repeat reading some of the books I've been reading. And that one is one of the books I want to read again. So yeah, so we have all this that we now know. Okay, so if we come here, this is now the injection. Okay, the injecting from get current user, from this dependable get current user, which gives us the current user. As simple as that. So you see, guys, I don't know what you say, but everything we have been learning from the beginning makes sense. I don't see anything hard about this. I don't know what you people say, but me, I see nothing hard. This is very simple. If you think there's anything I've left out or missed out, please let me know. But for me, this is very easy to understand. Very easy. All right, so let me continue. So you're saying, notice we declare the type of current user as the pedantic user model. Yeah, which is this. Okay, the type of current user is this pedantic user model. And they're saying this helps us inside the function with all the completion and type checks. We know this, guys. We know this. Okay, we know this. This is a song we have been singing. At this point, like things are just clicking, okay? So if you're watching this now or watching this after the stream, you might wonder why I'm saying this is simple, but it's because I've gone through all the basics from the very beginning in order, okay? One of the reasons I don't like watching certain types of content online is because people do not teach things in order, okay? Someone teaches you about maybe annotations, then before you know it, you find that they're building an application and they're putting in a current user. Before you know it, they're on this, okay? But you don't get to understand what so many concepts, okay? And if you understood those small concepts, certain things become very easy, okay? Lena says, that's right. I've come to appreciate the aspect of building the right foundation. We're now flowing well. Yes, I agree. So you say you might remember that. They're saying you might remember that request bodies are also declared with Pydantic models. Okay. They're saying here, first API won't get confused because you are using depends. Okay, that's good to know. They're saying the way this dependency system is designed allows us to have different dependencies or different dependables that all return a user model. We are not restricted to having only one dependency that can return that type of data. So you see that here current user is of type the same user model, okay, which is quite okay. Then we see that current user is also returning the same instance, okay. Fake the code is also returning an instance. So we have this base user model has been reused multiple times, okay, and FastAPI will not get confused because of that. So we have here something else saying other models. So they're saying you can now get the current user directly in the path operation functions and deal with the security mechanisms at the dependency injection level using depends. You can use any model or data for the security requirements, and in this case, a Pydantic model user. But you are not restricted to using some specific data model or type. You are not restricted to using some specific data model, class, or type. Do you want to have an ID and email and not have any username in your model? Sure, you can use the same tools. Do you want to have just a string or just a dictionary, a dict, or a database class instance directly? It all works the same way. You actually don't have users that log into your application, but robots, bots, and other systems that have just an access token. Again, it all works the same. Okay, just use any kind of model, any kind of class, any kind of database you need for your application. FastAPI has you covered with the dependency injection system. Isn't this great to know? Okay, powerful and good. Very satisfying at this point. Code size, they're saying this example might seem verbose. Keep in mind that we are mixing security, data models, utility functions, and path operations in the same file. Okay. Yeah. So we find that we have the path operation. Okay. We have the model. Okay. We have security and then the utility in the same file. Okay. So you're saying, but here's the key point. The security and dependency injection stuff is written once. That's a good thing, okay? Written once and it can be in another file, okay? And you're saying you can make it as complex as you want and still have it written only once in a single place with all the flexibility. Yeah, so ideally, security, you write security only once, okay? And once in a while you tweak it, okay? But again, you tweak it according to your rules and it continues working. And they're saying, but you can have thousands of endpoints, path operations using the same security system. So you wrote the security system once, but hundreds of your endpoints are using the same, okay? And all of them, or a portion of them that you want, can take advantage of reusing these dependencies or any other dependencies you create. All these thousands of path operation functions can be as small as three lines, okay? So yeah, we have this, okay, 3 lines. As simple as that. Okay. Can you imagine? This is only 3 lines, but a number of things are going on. Okay. We have security happening. We're getting a token. The token is being decoded. Okay. And we're getting the current user. Okay. So we have the path operation, 3 lines of code. We have the first dependency. We have the utility function. Okay. We have the Pydantic model, and we have the actual the sub dependency. Okay. The security itself. Okay. And in this case, it is an OAuth2 scheme. So yeah, good enough. Let's now go to the next section. Okay. Wait, did I read the last text? Let me see. They're saying recap. They're saying now you can get the current user directly in your path operation function. We are already halfway there. We just need to add a path operation for the user client to actually send the username and password. That comes next. Okay. Yeah. So I missed that, but let's go to the next one to make sure we understand that. Okay. So as we try to do that, let me just give you a few minutes as I handle something urgent here. So just a minute and then we continue. All right. Let us continue. So they're saying simple OAuth2 with password and bearer. Okay. So again, if you're just joining us right now, we began studying about security since yesterday. We looked at the first steps. We've looked at getting current user today, and now we're into simple OAuth2 with password and bearer. Okay. So keep in mind that nothing should be ignored. Many people actually ignore certain things. Okay. You come here and you only read about this. Okay. But it's not enough. It explains by the why. One time I got to understand why sometimes we fail interviews. Okay. Because I think right now in the age of AI and whatever, when people are testing others in interviews, they're looking for how deeply you understand certain things. And to be able to show that you understand certain things, you need to understand the foundations of all things. Okay. How something comes out to be what it is. Okay. That's what it will set you apart. But anyway, let me not get into that topic. Let me continue. They're saying now building from the previous chapter and add the missing parts to have a complete security flow. So they're saying get the username and password is the next thing we're working. They're saying we're going to use FastAPI security utilities to get the username and password. OAuth2 specifies that when using the password flow that we are using right now, and we saw last night what password flow is all about. Okay. And this is essentially what we are doing right now. Okay. So you're saying OAuth2 specifies that when using the password flow that we are using, the client or user must send a username and password fields as form data. Okay. So remember what we talked about form data maybe 5 days ago. And they're saying the spec says that the fields have to be named like that. Okay. So saying username dash username or email wouldn't work. Okay. We have to say username and password. Okay. Can't have username or email. Username with a hyphen like this will not work. Okay. So they're saying, but don't worry, you can show it as you wish to your final users in the front end. Okay. So if the users prefer to see email or they prefer to see user dash name, we can show them to our final users, to the users in our front end. Okay. And our database models can use any name, any other names we want. Okay. That is okay. But they're saying, but for the login path operation, we need to use these names to be compatible with the specification and be able to, for example, use the integrated open API documentation system. Okay. So we have to use these names exactly. Guys, take note of this: username and password. Okay. So that in case I also forget, you can correct me or remind me. So after that, okay, they're saying the spec also states that the username and password must be sent as form data. So not JSON. Okay. You remember, guys, what we stated about JSON. We looked at JSON, we looked at form data. So they have to be form data, not JSON. Okay. So you don't send the JSON string, which means the enc type will be multi-part form data, if you remember. And so we have your scope. They're saying the spec also says that the client can send another form field called scope. Okay. So we have username, the first field, password, the second field, then scope is now the third field. And they're saying the form field is scope in singular, but it is actually a long string with scopes separated by spaces. Okay. And they're saying each scope is just a string without spaces. So idea is something like this. Okay. A string, okay, having something like maybe scope 1, okay, space scope 2, okay, space scope, like that, and so many other scopes. Okay, that's the whole idea. So if we continue, they're saying they are normally used to declare specific security permissions. For example, users read or users write are common examples. So you can guess that this one, permission to allow a user to read, this one is a permission to allow a user to write. Okay. In the same, Instagram basic is used by Facebook or Instagram. Okay. So this is a one of them. Okay. Then they're saying HTTPS www.googleapis.com auth drive is used by Google. Okay. And by just looking at the end, you can this is by Google Drive. So these are different types of scopes. Okay. And of course, soon we shall see them. Okay. So let's look at some info here. They're saying in OAuth2, a scope is just a string that declares a specific permission required. It doesn't matter if it has other characters like this full colon or if it's a URL. Those details are implementation specific. For OAuth2, they are just strings, okay? So OAuth2, even if this looks like a URL, okay? Actually, it's a URL, but for OAuth2, this is only a string, okay? This one is also a string. This one would be considered a string. So ideally, you'll have something like this. If I'm to represent it, shall I say maybe you have like scope. Okay, there's a scope. Can't even type scope properly. Something like that. That's the first scope. Space, users right. Okay, space. Then we can have Instagram basic. Okay, that. Then finally, the one used by Google. Okay, as simple as that. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 scopes. So yeah, they simply define the security permission. So in this case, we have 4 security permissions or 4 scopes. So they're saying code to get the username and password. So they're saying now let's use the utilities provided by FastAPI to handle this. So they're saying OAuth2 password request form. So they're saying first import OAuth2 password request form and use it as a dependency with depends in the path operation for /token. Now imagine if we didn't study about, and this is what people on YouTube when they're doing tutorials do, and they mislead so many beginners. I've seen this a lot. Okay, someone says I'm building an application, and before you know it, they're already going into certain things and Okay, you're telling someone use depends, but there's no context. Okay, what depends is all about. But now, since we have been following this from the very beginning, we know what depends is all about. Okay, makes real sense. Okay, so here's it. Okay, the thing from FastAPI to security, import OAuth2 password bearer. This was the first subdependency we talked about. We know about since yesterday. And now this is the other one they were introduced just right now. The form, okay, the OAuth2 password request form. Okay. Then you see they have a fake database, fake users, simply dictionary having two values. This one, which is a dictionary, and this one is a dictionary. Okay. So you see the key John Doe and the value is a dictionary. Key Alice and the value is also a dictionary instead of FastAPI. Okay, but let's now concentrate on the parts that are being highlighted, what they want us to know. Okay, and right now they're saying the first thing for us to do is to import OAuth2 password request form. Okay, where is it? It's here. Okay, let's now go on to the next section to see what their point of interest is. Okay, and now if I come back here and they say import it, okay, then they're saying use it as a dependency with depends in the path operation for token. Remember yesterday we had that, okay, path operation for token. This one here, the path you have to put the path operation that handles the token endpoint. So if I scroll to the bottom, you'll see that I've highlighted this part. Okay, the function is called login. Okay, and the path operation for token is this one. This is the path operation decorator having the endpoint token. Okay, and the operation itself is this one here. Okay, and it's here. OAuth2 password request form has been used together with depends. Okay, so it is form data, what we are expected. Okay, so let's go step by step. This is the form data, and of course I'm going to test all this code so that we get it. And then after that, let's go and see what they say. They're saying OAuth2 password request form is a class dependency that declares a form body with the username, the password, and an optional scope field as a big string composed of strings separated by spaces, an optional grant type. So now we know the fourth one. Okay, so username, password required, but scope and grant type are optional. Okay, so take note of that. And we've seen, so let's continue. Okay, and remember it is form. It's a form because that's what the specification says. Okay, it cannot be JSON. So if I continue, they say info OAuth2 password request form is not a special class for FastAPI as OAuth2 password bearer. OAuth2 password bearer makes FastAPI know that it is a security scheme. So it is added that way to open API. But OAuth2 password request form is just a class dependency that you have to write yourself. Or you could have declared form parameters directly. Okay, and they're saying, but as it's a common use case, it is provided by FastAPI directly to make it easier. Okay, so they're saying there's nothing special about OAuth2 password request form. Okay, it is simply, we can actually also create our hours using form. Remember form, okay, by doing this. I can come here from FastAPI, say import form, okay, then I create our own, okay. Okay, say auth form, and you see AI is giving good autocomplete, okay, something like this. Okay, we can do it like this, but of course here we have to inherit from form. Okay, very easy, but let me leave that. So but they're saying we can create our own. Okay, so I want to, if you go back here, I want you to see something. This, okay, they create it because it is something which, of course, if I come here and I say comma, okay, then I go to the implementation. Okay, if I click, Okay, and look at it. Simple class. Okay, you see, with username, okay, and password. Okay, and both of them are form. You see, form, and the values are strings. Okay, yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So let's look for the next point of interest. Lender says they are now implementing what they said we cannot pass model inside depends. We use it as type because that will be repetition. Aha, exactly. Yeah, good catch, Linus. Now you're understanding it. Where is that? Is here. Yeah. For those who don't understand, let me show you what Linus says. If I copy this, okay, let me just copy the whole function so that I give you context of what Linus has understood. Okay. So wow, the many things. Let me remove this and maybe just make this a string. Okay. So here we have form data. Okay, annotated with password OAuth2. Okay, request form and depends. But another way of writing it would be this. Okay, would be to do this, to have the type this also inside here. Okay, OAuth2 password request form right here. Okay, and also right here inside here. Okay, but they're saying we cannot, we shouldn't pass it inside this depends like this. Why? This will just be repetition. Okay, all we have to do is this, use it as the type and add depends here. And they're saying if we just do this, okay, have it once without repeating it twice as a type and as an argument to depends, FastAPI is smart enough, okay, to know that this is the type, okay, and we shall need to depend on it. Okay, that's what we saw yesterday. So this avoids repetition. So yeah, I hope all of you now get it. Let's continue. They're saying the auth2 spec requires a field grant type with a fixed value of password, but auth2 request form doesn't enforce it. Okay, so they're saying if you need to enforce it, use auth2 request form strict instead of auth2 request form. So yeah, good to know. So the others, there's also an optional client ID, and they think we don't need it for this example. There's an optional client secret, and they say we don't need it for our example. Okay, so ideally we have username, password, scope, grant type. Okay, client ID and client secret. That's what we have for that. So info, they're saying auth2 password form is not a special class, as is auth2 password bearer. It feels like I've read this, but then it doesn't hard to read it again. OAuth2 password bearer makes FastAPI know that it is a security scheme, so it is added that way to OpenAPI. We have known this, okay? But OAuth2 password request form is just a class dependency that you could have written yourself, or you could have declared form parameters directly, okay? And they're saying, but as it's a common use case, it is provided by FastAPI directly just to make it easier. Yeah, to save us some time. And for those of you who don't know what form parameters are, you can come into our tutorial. Okay, what we studied. Where is that? We studied about form data. Okay. Also, we studied about the form models. Okay. So if you come to watch the stream, okay, we dealt with these form parameters a lot, and we looked at also form models and why they are relevant. So in other words, you can create something like this. We can create a base model having the username and password and specify that the actual data is a form. The metadata is a form. So doing this, okay, first of all, we look at the type, okay, and know that this type of data, okay, should be form, okay? And that's why what Linus did last time, I mean, what Linus was talking about this, where is it? Let me Control Z, that's why this would work, okay? Because first of all, we'll know that, okay, this is metadata for dependency. So it will look at the type and know that the type, this is both the type and the dependency. Just like in the case of the form I've showed you, it will look at the type and the metadata. So the metadata will help enforce what the type should actually be. So the type could be, it can enforce that it's a body, it can enforce that it's a path, it can enforce that it's a query, header, cookie. Or in our case, the metadata is enforcing that it is, you guessed it, a dependency. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you don't, I can re-explain it to you. You have to actually have to give real focus to get it, or just have followed from the beginning. So they're saying use the form data. So they're saying the instance of the dependency class OAuth2 password request form won't have an attribute scope with the long string separated by spaces. Instead, it will have a scopes attribute with the actual list of strings for each scope sent. We are not using scopes in this example, but the functionality is there if you need it. Okay. So now they say now get the user from the fake database using the username from the form field. If there's no such user, we can return an error saying incorrect username or password. For the error, we use the exception HTTP exception. But this the norm. Okay. This is the user for the flow. Okay. When someone gives you a username, okay, you check whether they exist in the database. Whether a fake database, whether a real database, you have to check. If there's no user, then you return an error saying the incorrect username or password. Okay. And of course, you don't say incorrect username alone or incorrect password, because the hacker can know that, oh, so the issue is with the password or the username at this point. So you simply tell them incorrect username or password, and it's up to the client to make sure they provide both of them which are correct. So that they send a wrong password, simply tell them it is incorrect username or password. If they send both a username and password which is wrong, still tell them it is incorrect username or password. All right, so here, this is the point of code of interest they want us to understand, okay? And you can see that the difference that they're importing HTTP exception. And of course, we handled exception handling recently, okay? So, yeah. So let's go on to see. This is what I wanted, okay? So this is the say fake users db.get. And fake users DB in this case is simply a database, not a database rather, but a dictionary. This one, okay? Then they say get to get by the key, okay? So they come here and say get form data.username, okay? So form data is coming from this form, okay? And remember, FastAPI will look at the metadata. The metadata in this case is depends. So FastAPI is smart enough to know that this is both a type and a dependency, okay? It will ensure that whatever is given to us must be of type form data, and it must be provided to our function, okay? Very good. And then after that, we can use the username from the form to get the user information, which will be user dict. So they're saying if there's nothing, okay, if it is null, they raise an exception saying you've given us a bad request and the detail incorrect username or password. Okay, that's the first step. Okay, let's scroll to see another point of interest. Okay, what are those points of interest? The codes they have highlighted. Okay, so they're saying after we have now done that, we now check the password. They're saying at this point we have the user from our database, but we haven't checked the password. We have only checked the username. I hope you all noticed that. We have only checked the username. And they're saying, let's put that data in the Pandatic user in DB model first. You should never save plain text passwords. So we'll use the fake password hashing system. If the passwords don't match, we return the same error. Okay. So saying they're trying to explain what password hashing. For those of you who have been in the development for long, of course, you know what it is, okay? They're saying hashing means converting some content, a password in this case, into a sequence of bytes, just a string that looks like gibberish, okay? So imagine if my password was something like this, okay? If my password, for those maybe who may not understand, my password is equals to maybe 123 YouTube, okay? If it was hashed, okay, let's say maybe password underscore hash, it would be into something maybe like this, just gibberish, okay, like that. This would be, for example, what my password hash. And to get this password hash, we must use what they call a hashing function, okay, to get this. All right, let's go. On the same, whenever you pass exactly the same content, the exactly same password, you get the exactly same gibberish, okay? So when you're hashing, okay, and use the same hash function, you must always get the same gibberish, okay? So they're saying, but you cannot convert from the gibberish back to the password. Yeah, you cannot go in reverse. This is what makes it a little bit safe. So they're saying, why use password hashing? They're saying if your database is stolen, the thief won't have your users plain text passwords. Okay, they'll have only the hashes. So they're saying so the thief won't be able to try to use those same passwords in another system. As many users use the same password everywhere, this would be dangerous. Okay. So if you didn't know, yeah, this is the purpose. So let us look for that point of interest in the code. Okay. Here's the part. Okay. They say now that we have got the user after doing this validation, user equals to user in DB, then they supply this, the dictionary, the unpack. Okay, so this will give key value pairs. So if you go up here to see user in DB is simply this. Okay, it's simply a model. It's just a pandatic based model. Why is it a pandatic model? Because it inherits from user. This one here, which is the base user model. But the difference is that this one, the user in DB has a hashed password. Okay, so it combines everything here, including a hashed password. Take note of that. That's the difference. Okay. And this to reinforce the point that never save a plain text password. So let's go on. After we have got that user instance, okay, they now say hashed password equals to fake hashed password form data dot password. Okay. So remember, the password only comes from the form. Okay. The first validation, this first part was validating, guys, the username. Now we are validating the password. Okay, they're hashing it. So they're checking if not hashed password. Okay, if this hash password is not equals to user.hashed password. Okay, this one here. Okay, then they raise the same error. Okay, so you get the hashed password from the form and compare it with the hashed password in the database. They must match. If they don't match, you raise the same error and the code is still 400, meaning a bad request. If everything goes correct, okay, then you can return, okay, the access token. In this case, it's simply returning the user.name and the token type bearer. Okay, but I'm sure there are better ways of creating a token and they should show it soon. Okay, wow, it's been a lot of talking today. I don't know whether it's because I slept early, I mean late. I hope I need to raise this thing so I have to look up like this to avoid next train. All right. So the saying about user dict, of course, those who have other versions of Python, look at this, but what changes is simply annotations. And in this case, I'm sure it is only union. Okay. So they're saying about user dict, okay, about asterisk user dict, but they explained this before, okay. So they're saying user in DB asterisk asterisk user dict means pass the keys and values of the user dict directly as key value arguments. Okay. And it is equivalent to doing this. Okay. Saying username equals to user dict username, email equals to user dict email. Of course, if you, for those who know Python, okay, you even don't need anybody to explain to you this. Okay. So you're simply saying this is the short form of doing this, which makes the code cleaner and yeah, easier to read. For those who have been doing Python, yeah, this is not FastAPI related. Okay, it's a Python thing. And of course, because FastAPI is a Python framework, the same is possible. So they're saying for a more complete explanation of user dict, check back in the documentation for extra models. Yeah, and we studied that sometime. Okay, I don't know what stream that is. Maybe if I'm to check YouTube, I don't know. You guys can come where was extra models. I think every time I mention something we studied in the past, I should always come here and point you to it. I don't know. Wow. Have I had so many streams that I can't even tell which one was it? Params, nested, data types, cookie, form, path config, dependencies. I will go crazy if it's not here, because I'm sure we did it. We studied extra models. Wow. If I do this, will it give me what I want? Control F. Yeah, it's here. FastAPI extra data types etc. Okay. Yeah, this is why we studied extra models. So let's continue. Sorry about that. All right, let's continue. So they're saying finally return the token. They're saying the response of the token endpoint must be a JSON object. It should have a token type. In our case, as we are using bearer tokens, the token type should be bearer. Okay. And they're saying it should have an access token with a string containing our access token. For this example, we are just going to be completely insecure and return the same username as the token. So what all this is talking about, okay, is where is that line of code? Here is this, that you must, according to the OpenAPI specification for OAuth2, ensure you return a key access token and a key token type. And in this case, it should be bearer. Don't say bearers or bearies. Okay, you should not get excited like that. It will be wrong. It should be bearer. It has to be access underscore token. Okay, and in this case, this is just dummy value saying user.use, but this is wrong. Okay, for those of you who have been doing backend development for some time, you must be very aware about this. Okay, later on, they're going to show us how to create real valid tokens. Okay, so let's continue. So they have a tip. They're saying in the next chapter, you will see a real secure implementation with a password hashing and DWT tokens. Even if this one is not like a real implementation, I'm going to copy all the code, paste in my editor, walk through all of it line by line. Then we go to the docs and yeah, test it out, okay, using the interactive docs. So they're saying Python 3.10 plus, okay. Yeah, this is for the point of interest, what I've just been talking about, okay. Then they're saying a tip, okay. By the spec, you should return a JSON with an access token and a token type, the same as in the example. This is something that you have to do yourself in your code. Make sure you use those JSON keys. Again, it has to be access token and token type, nothing else. And it's saying it's almost the only thing that you have to remember to do correctly yourself to be compliant with specifications. Okay. For the rest, FastAPI handles it for you. Okay. Update the dependencies. Okay. So yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to do everything. I'm going to walk through all the code in just a moment. They're saying Now we're going to update our dependencies. We want to get the current user only if this user is active. So we create an additional dependency, get current active user, that in turn uses get current user as a dependency. Yeah, I like this. All now makes sense. Okay, right from yesterday's stuff, it makes sense. You're saying both of these dependencies will just return an HTTP error if the user doesn't exist. If you read this page, okay, this page covers concepts that we are learning today, but it also covers like about concepts we have studied in like 15 streams so far. I don't know if you guys who have been watching from the beginning, following with me closely. This content, just today, what you're studying, covers what we have learned today, covers what you have studied in 15 streams. 15 streams, trust me on that. Okay. And again, if you've missed any, I'd really advise you that you watch any of these. Okay. And of course, you can watch it at 2x speed. Okay. Just to, it is funny that we began 3 weeks ago. Okay. Very soon, this will be showing, I think, 1 month ago from the very first step. And look at us. Interesting. Let me continue. So you're saying both of these dependencies will just return an HTTP error if the user doesn't exist or if is inactive. So in our endpoint, we will only get a user if the user exists, was correctly authenticated, and is active. Yeah. And this is the same flow, guys, everywhere. Yeah, as long as you're using OAuth2, you need form data, having a username and a password. After that, you verify the username, you do verification of the password. After that, you check if there's a current user. Okay. After checking the current user, it's not enough. You must now check that that current user is active. First step. This is actually this is me summarizing everything in just like 1 minute. Form data, having username and password, verify username, verify password, get current user, check if current user is active. That is it. All this is just trying to say that. But to achieve it, needs so many concepts. It's not as simple as I've just said it in 1 minute. Okay? That's what when people look at me, well, man, you understand the things so well. They don't know that you've actually spent a lot of time studying things for many days to be able to summarize it in a minute. Lena says it is true. I also witnessed that the response model is separated from what to store in DB through inheriting. Exactly. Yeah. They separated it. So, yeah, guys, consistency pays off. A very important trait in our time today, where we have things like there's a lot of quick stuff. People are being promised quick stuff. There's a lot of like things like shorts, short form content, quick gratification, okay, which is not actually the reality in life. It's not really. Even those guys who seem to be giving you quick satisfaction put a lot of work. Let me tell you something. Do you know how much effort goes into just creating a shot? It's a lot actually. Okay, so there's nothing actually really quick. Okay, it's an illusion. So if you're here and listening with me, there's no that illusion. You have to find that urge. Okay, that makes you think things are always going to come quick. It takes a little of discipline and consistency, and we are seeing it's now paying off. So let's scroll to that point of interest, which is this. Okay, they're saying you get now the current user, and this is an async def function. Okay, like I've told you, just this page alone talks about concepts we've studied in like 15 streams. Okay, because you see, async def, that was one stream we studied about these things in detail. Path operation function, annotated, dependables. Okay, just this line of code has like 3 concepts covered in 3 streams. Okay, then here, this is another concept, 4 streams. This is another concept. Okay, anyway, let me get into that. Let me explain this as I understand it. They're saying get current user. Okay, which is a string, okay? And the dependable auth2 scheme will give us the token. Then they decode the token, and decoding the token means we shall get a user. And if there's no user, we raise an exception, okay? And that concept, that string where we said about exception, they explain that this will be passed down to the path operation function, even if you just raise it here, okay? And it's something they talk about trying and catching an exception, how it behaves. That thing stuck in my mind in that stream up to now. One, why you have to re-raise it even if after you've caught it. So let me not go into that. Sorry for diverting, but they simply return that user. Okay. So after getting the current user is not enough. Okay. This is the concept you should understand. After you've got a current user, it's not enough. The next step is to check if that current user is active. This is what this function does. Okay. The annotation of current user, which we expect is user. Okay. But it depends on get current user, this function here. Okay. So this is the sub-dependency. Okay. Or a dependency of a dependency. And then they check if the current user is disabled, meaning they're not active. Okay. Then they raise an exception that this is an inactive user. Otherwise, they return the current user. Okay. As simple as that. So you see here, the actual path operation function is just one for getting a current. Say users / me. Okay. They're saying current user. Then it depends on get add active current user. Okay. Which would be returned according to this type. Okay. And is returned here finally. But get current active user is a dependency. Okay. Which is here. Okay. Which also depends on get current user, which is this other one. Okay. And soon, of course, I'm going to copy all that code. And so those having other versions and variants, look here, but my guess is that the change is only on this, using this union. And of course, those working in Python 3.8, the change comes on using union and also using annotated from typing extensions. Then here they're saying you can work without annotated, but don't. Okay, like they're saying, prefer to use annotated if possible. So let's continue. They're saying info, the additional www authenticate, the additional header www authenticate with the value bearer we are returning here is also part of the spec. Any HTTP error status code 401 unauthorized is supposed to also return a www authenticate header. Okay. In case of bearer tokens, in our case, the value of header should be bearer. You can actually skip that header and it would still work. Okay. They're saying, but it's provided here to be compliant with the specifications. And that's the good thing for us to do. Liner says I can see a lot of sub-dependencies. Yes, correct. So many of them. And that is something we spent about 40 minutes or an hour or so. I think it was actually longer than that. I think the first stream was about maybe an hour. The next one is about an hour and maybe 30 minutes. So almost 2 hours studying dependencies and advanced dependencies. So let's continue. They're saying also there might be tools that expect and use it now or in the future and that might be useful for you or your users now or in the future. And that's the benefit of standards, that everybody knows that A plus B gives us X. Okay. When you have a standard, everybody will know that there is no way A plus B will be equals to P or Y. Okay. So yeah, standards are good. So say see it in action, open the interactive docs as that. So to do it, let me copy all this code. Okay. I've copied it. Okay. So I'll paste it here. Okay. So if you can see, they're telling us to go and check it here. Okay. But before we check it, I want to go through all of it. Okay. I want to go through all of this one more time. Then we can go and check out the the docs. So from the beginning, we have annotated imported from typing. Okay, we have depends FastAPI exception status imported from FastAPI. We have auth2 bearer, auth2 password request form imported from FastAPI.security and base model from Pydantic. Just reading this, we have covered all this, I think, in how many streams? The concepts to understand this properly, maybe 7 streams. Okay. Okay. So after that, we have a fake users DB. Okay. And this has simply it's just a dictionary. Okay. Having 2 keys, John Doe and Alice. Okay. So this is like our fake database. I'll close this. Then you have a function for hashing, simply mimicking password hashing. Okay. And returning a fake hashed password. Okay. After that, they have an OAuth2 scheme. Okay. And the URL is token. Okay. This points to an actual path operation function, which is down here. Okay. So this token here refers to this one here. This. Take note of that. Don't forget. Okay. After that, we have, let me minimize this. Okay. After that, we have a base user model. Okay. A Pydantic model having a username, which is a string, an email, which is a string, or can be none, and the default value is none, meaning it is optional. We have a full name, which can be a string, or none, default value is none, meaning it is optional. We have disabled, which can be Boolean, or none, default value is none, making it optional. We have user in DB, which is also a Pydantic based model, but inherits from user, okay, and adds one additional field called hash password. Okay, I close that. All these are streams where we go into details of the things. Then they have a function called get user, which takes the database, the username. Okay, so it says for username in DB. Okay, if username in DB, they return a dictionary. Okay, DB username, and they simply use user in DB to return that user like this. Okay, remember how they explain this unpacking? They just unpack that. And of course, if the username is not in DB, by default, this function will return none. Okay, so they're getting user from this this dictionary here. Okay, and guys, right now they are getting it from the dictionary, but this is what you would do in a real world application. Whether you have a Postgres database, your logic here would be help you to get your user from that Postgres database, from maybe MongoDB, from maybe your blockchain, I don't know, whatever. Okay, it's the same thing, the same concept. Okay, then after that, you fake, you decode the token. Okay, right now it is fake. Okay, but I'm saying you're using get user. Okay, to do that, but simply to trust the user. So ideally, you'll have to do that, and they're saying this doesn't provide any security at all. Check the next version. Okay, that's the next page that we shall study soon. Then after that, they have, sorry, they have a function get current user. Okay, and get current user simply gives us a token from our dependency OAuth2 scheme. Okay, and this would be a string. Okay, so this token which is given to us from our dependency is decoded. Okay, and if there is no user given to us, we raise an exception. Okay, otherwise we return that user. Okay, after that, and remember, some functions are async dev, others are not async dev. After that, we go to getting the current active user. Okay, we have a dependency called get current user. Okay, which gives us that current user. And if the user is disabled, then we return an error and we raise an exception. Otherwise, we return that current user. After that, we have now the actual endpoint. Okay, which does the login. It's called login. Okay, which access form data. Okay, using this type, which will also be the same dependency. And then it first of all gets the user from the database and does validation using the username. Okay, after that, validation for the password. Okay, after that, when all things are okay, simply return an access token, and the token type. Okay. Then if you want to get the currently active user, you use the using this dependency called get current active user. And that is it. Okay, very simple. So I can now go to the documentation. Okay, so they're saying click authorize, okay, and use the credentials, user, John Doe, password, secret. Okay, I can copy this. Why John Doe and password secret? Because they are here. Okay, we have John Doe and their password is going to be called what? Secret. Okay. Okay. Why? Because when they hash it, okay, it will be faked hash secret. Okay. As simple as that. So I can come here. No, we want this authorize. Okay. So I press John Doe and the password is secret. Okay. So you see you have client ID, blah 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 optional. I don't know why I can't see these other buttons. I think because I had zoomed out probably, but still I can't see them. But I guess this is the button here. Okay. Where my cursor has reached. If I click it, say okay, minimize this again. So it looks like it's now, it has worked fine. Okay, we have logged in. Okay, so let's go on. Okay, so yeah, that's what I clicked on authorize, but on my screen for some reason it was hidden. Maybe because I've zoomed a lot. Okay, that's why it was hidden. But you click on authorize, and I did that. Okay, they say after authenticating the system, you'll see it like this. Okay, and this is what I saw here. Okay, this is what we saw. You see this? So if I go back, they're saying get your own user data. They're saying now the operation get with path users me, you'll get your users data like this. Okay. So if I cancel this and I go to this one, okay, and I try it out and execute, you see we get the actual users data. Awesome. Okay. And now I think everything should now make sense. If I scroll, yeah, this is what they do. So they're saying if you click the lock icon and log out, then try the same operation again, you'll get 401 error of detail and authenticated. Okay. So yeah, we can try it out. Okay. You can come here and log out. Okay. So I've logged out. How can I escape this? So if I come back here and execute this and scroll down, you see we get the same thing, detail and authenticated. I mean, detail not authenticated. Then for inactive user, they say try with an inactive user. So we authenticate with Alice and the password is secret too. Okay. They're saying and try to use the operation get with this. You'll get an inactive user error like this. Okay. So if I come here, I say authorize. Okay. And I like this interactive documentation. Eh? Helps us to test things very fast. Password secret 2. I hope I've typed it correctly. Then I authorize. Okay. So it's been authorized. Okay. Properly. But if I come here and I execute, you see we get detail inactive user. Okay. So we have a summary saying you have the tools to implement a complete security system based on username and password for your API. Using these tools, you can make the security system compatible with any database and with any user or data model. The only detail missing is that it is not actually secure yet. In the next chapter, you will see how to use a secure password, hashing library, and JWT tokens. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, but the whole concept is now understood. And this is what exactly you would do. Okay. But of course, how you would organize it in your project. This idea, actually, when you're building a project, for those of you who have done development before, these things cannot be in one file. Okay. It can't be in one file. And yeah, there's a better way to organize all this. And I have already in my mind an idea of how to do this. Okay. So yeah, if I go to I want to test out one more endpoint before I end this. If I go to token and try it out, okay? So you see scope, client IDs, client secret are optional, okay? So here, I want to try MC execute with that. Say incorrect username or password. If I put like one who exists, let's say John Doe, and then I put the password secret. And look at here, application slash URL encoded. Okay, it is form data, guys. You remember when we started forms, this is what we expect the type to be. Form URL encoded. If the form has a file, then it becomes multi-part. Always remember the things that we have studied from the past. Okay, so you see saying grant type, border should be blah 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 blah, should match. Okay, so what's that grant type thing? Wait, I don't need this. I want to send empty value. Okay, all I need is I want to be here and I want the password here to be secret. Let's try it again. Says grant type should match the pattern this. Okay, actually they explained about how actually FastAPI does this for us. Okay, but I guess maybe in the next section they'll show us how to do this. Okay, but it's made up of the password. Okay, this pattern, it must have the password, but let us add the password. Okay, let me put the password here and I see, because it looks like we can't get. So string should match pattern. It should start with password and end with password. Okay, so let me put maybe password itself. Okay, now look at this is me forgetting regular expressions, guys, live on the internet. And there we are. I've passed it. Okay, you get the access token and the token type bearer. For those who have not understood, let me do this. Okay, remove it and execute so that you see the error. Okay, so the error says the string should match pattern. Okay, so in regular expressions, this caret sign says the expression must start with this string called password. Okay, then the dollar sign means it must end. Okay, so it starts and ends with only password. So I was simply supposed to get password and put it here as a quick trick. And actually, they explained something like this earlier, but I guess they'll give us more details later. So if I do that, everything passes. Okay. Yep. So that's how we get tokens. Okay. So we get tokens. And of course, we looked at this endpoint. Okay. It says inactive user. Okay. If I cancel, try it out. Okay. Still inactive. Okay. Would need to authorize. Okay. Yeah. So it's been a lot. Like I've told you, yes, this covers concepts we have studied like in 15 or maybe even 18 streams or 20. Who knows? It's a lot. I'm basically thinking it covers almost everything. All the 23 streams we've had so far, or 24 rather. So the next concept will be what is going to go down tonight. Okay. OAuth2 with password and hashing bearer with GWT tokens. I hope you've all learned something today. Yeah, so I'll do this in the night session. Okay, I'm actually burnt out and tired. I want now to go and leave the weekend. So yeah, I think now you see how it has paid off, and it makes sense. There's no way you can understand this without everything else we have studied right from the beginning. All this just to come to here. Okay, and I think by the next week we should be able to finish this, God willing. And we have Python types concurrent that we looked at. Okay, yeah, maybe even later, maybe we can do deployment, but deployment will be good after I build the application. So I'll build the application, then show you about deployment. Okay, then yeah, step by step. And here we are, advanced guide. Maybe I can just make tutorials instead of live streaming. I can make tutorials about some of this. But in fact, in this, as we've been studying these things, I have looked at some of these advanced things. Okay, like these operation things and additional status code. We looked at this, and because we have understood many of the things, it's not even actually complex. You reach then you're like, wait, but this makes sense. What is complex actually about this? Yeah. So yeah, I'll be ending this stream now. Thank you for learning along with me. See you at night at the usual time. Bye. Where we complete security.